everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us on another exciting episode of the Digicel Masterclass series. I'm your host, Terri-Karelle, and it is a pleasure having you. Now, I can't speak to Digicel's direct messages, but my direct messages were lit. Thank you so very much for those of you who registered for free via digicelbusiness.com. You sent your messages telling me that you watched the episode, you watched the replay, you got the homework, you took the notes, and you're also applying it. And that is what the Digicel Masterclass series is all about. Taking the insights from Jamaica's top businessmen and businesswomen and applying it to your personal and or professional development. So make sure, if you haven't already, make sure that you have registered via digicelbusiness.com. Now, of course, we want you to be a part of the conversation. So go ahead and send your messages in, and you can submit it on the online chat or across your social media platforms. Just don't forget to use the hashtags, hashtag Digicel Masterclass, and hashtag Digicel Business. Now, Richard Pandui did a fantastic job in the first episode. So we were asking and wondering who is going to top it, who can match it, and we're so happy to say that we have one of our very own. She rolled big. She's a boss lady and she gets things done always. We are talking about Nasha-Monique Douglas. Oh my goodness, superstar.
Oh,
we are accustomed to her being in the background, but today we have her front seat, and she is going to be our master. Now, just in case you do not know about Nasha, not only is she the Chief Marketing Officer of Digicel, but we want you to understand that she has 18 plus years of brand management and marketing experience. Not to date her, and definitely not to call her old. She was also the Spirits and Wines brand manager for Diageo, brand and senior brand manager for Heineken and Red Stripe, and the Chief Operating Officer for Mystique Integrated Services Limited. Invaluable experience. And if there's one person who can speak to us about brand building, it has to be Nasha-Monique Douglas. How are you?
I'm good, a little nervous.
No, don't be nervous. First of all, may I just say congratulations to Digicel. You guys came up with announcement, you're operating as a digital operator.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
talking about new plans, new products, new platforms. You just had a concert the other day that connected everybody, the entire world, across your platform, Romain, Virgo, Shensia.
Everybody.
How do you do it? How does Digicel do it each time?
Let me put it this way. Amazingly creative people who are all driven on the desire to continuously win and deliver experiences for our customers that are lasting, right? And we all have that in common. So maybe we may be several different people across our region, but we all have that one desire in common, and that's just to ensure that we deliver amazing experiences to you that you'll always remember.
I just think it's amazing that each time you raise the bar, and
nobody
you go,
don't want nothing that somebody else already
This
does.
is true. You raise the bar, and we go, okay, they can't possibly top it. And then what Digicel does is they go, boom, boom. And I just want to say congratulations to the team.
Thank you.
So brand building, let's talk about it, especially during COVID-19. We've seen the pandemic, allow people to have to shift. Some people had to pivot. Some people have to stay. By force. You're here, right here. And there's some people who are trying to figure out how to create brands, build brands, and to remain relevant. So for those persons who might be watching, our audience are primarily small to medium-sized businesses. They're at different phases. So let's talk about the definition of brand building first, before we start to go too deep. In your definition, in your words, define brand building.
Well, for me, brand building is crafting a strategy rooted in consumer insights that delivers long-lasting image, reputation, love, passion for your brand for forever. So it's the foundation for me, and it's something that I take very, very seriously, and those that work with me will tell you. Because I consider myself the current custodian of the brand called Digicel.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So I don't consider, I hate going into any company and a new marketing director says, well, it's mine now, it's my year now, change the brand. As a current custodian, your responsibility is to do all the right things by the brand, right? And to ensure that you're holding several other people accountable, because marketing is great and all, but if you have a bad product, if you have poor customer service,
all the marketing
it makes no difference. So everything has to align and come together for me to do my job well, But my role is to ensure that the foundation remains intact, that you do amazing experiences, that it is rooted in what you as the customer wants, right? So in my last job, I'm the kind of person that will go to a bar and sit down and watch you, or a supermarket.
Connect and understand and get the consumer insights that you're referring to.
Because research is great, but research is to inform what I already know because I have seen you in your real life doing it. Right? My perspective on insights is that I am to understand you so well that our relationship, because that's what it is, right? You buy a product and a service and people will tell you, oh, millennials don't care, that's why they... That's not true. People care when they have a relationship with you.
And when they feel valued.
And when they feel valued. And that is probably single-handedly the most important piece of the brand building journey. The brand's journey and the customer journey has to come together. It just won't make any sense.
Absolutely. No, I've heard and we've been hearing, especially across the social media space, personal brand, professional brand. Some people say that they're distinct and they're different. And some people say, hey, personal, professional, it's the same thing. What say you?
I'm sorry, I'm one person with one brain and two hands. So, and don't get it twisted, There were years ago in my career, I'm like, okay, there's a work Nasha and a play Nasha. And that's why I have 2 phones. Now I'm up to 3. I'm about to get a 4th.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
But that's also my product insights, right? But I used to try and separate the two, and it makes no sense. I am one person. So how I show up at work is how I show up in my personal life. Now, my friends will tell you that that's not always true because I'm more, driven to work. But personal brand, professional brand is the same thing. It's the same thing. It's who you are as a person. And it is incredibly important for me to land this point. You have to be your authentic self in whatever it is that you decide to do. And I struggled with that for years because I'm an aggressive marketer and I'm an aggressive person when it comes to work, and I like to win. And it don't always land well, right? But I'm also the same person when I play Kaluki. I do not like to lose, and people will tell you, do not play Kaluki.
I do not play Kaluki. I take it very seriously, and I do not play Kaluki.
I don't play it anymore because I became very not nice.
Right.
But your true authentic self, just like the work that I do, it has to be real, right? It has to connect on a real level. So I'm not going to deliver one aspect at work and then at home
completely different.
And then when people see you from work or outside and they're like, I never knew you were that nice.
Right. And it's also, and what you don't want to do in the whole conversation of brand building is you do not want to confuse your customer.
No.
You want to ensure that your values, your mission, everything is consistent, whether you are in a professional capacity or a personal capacity. So you can't say one thing as a personal, and then on the other side, it just doesn't look good.
Plus, I'm also not a brand manager that lives in a country with 50 million people, and so I get to be anonymous and live my life a particular way. And in other companies that I've worked with, I used to say to this particular brand manager in whatever part of the world, how you do it? She's like, oh, I have agencies that manage that. And for me, I'm like, I live in a market with 3 million people that can find me if they want to.
Yeah, and the chances of running into you.
And and believe you me, I have gotten a lot of ideas and feedback on all the things that I've ever sold in my entire life because people just came up to me.
They recognize you.
And right. So I don't want you to have a different experience than anybody else. This is me.
And so it's important for our viewers to understand, regardless of which part of their journey they're on, when they've come to figure out what their brand is about, who their ideal customer is, what message they're going to send, they have to be authentic, is what you're saying.
Number one.
And they must be consistent across personal as well as professional platforms.
Absolutely. Number one. So authenticity is number one. Consistency is a very close 1B. So I'll always tell my teams, I know everybody wants to be great, but great is so hard to achieve all the time. Start off being consistent because people want to know that they can trust your word. Yeah? And if you show up one way today and then they have a bad experience tomorrow, guess what they'll always remember?
The bad experience.
They'll always remember the bad experience. They'll never remember the good one. And so always maintaining a certain level of customer service with how you do anything is paramount to your success, right? And you have to be consistent.
And you'd be surprised to know that customer service has become the differentiator for people doing business. People will actually pay more for a lot of products and services as long as they feel, again, valued.
I am saying.
And if they feel as if people care about keeping you as a customer.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me move to my next question. What are crucial qualities a person or organization of any size must possess in order to build and maintain a highly positive and influential brand?
For me, number one is integrity, right? And it's an important one because it goes back to, again, trust, right? Because I always go back to the base of a relationship. I said this to a colleague today. If we screw up, take responsibility.
Hold yourself accountable.
Hold yourself accountable. Apologize for it and fix it and move on. The need to hide or to be dishonest about the approach or to try and cover it up it's not necessary.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, but we're also living in a completely different time where technology has put everything to the fore. I can find anything online, right? I can also destroy you online. So bad customer service, you know how much time I want to do a post and I have to remember who I am and my job and be like, okay, let me try and reach out to the brand manager, the CEO and say,
give feedback.
And give feedback, and because I don't want to blow them up on social media. But it's that easy. So you want that, but you want that from the love piece, right? So you want to ensure that you're delivering that service consistently, that you hold yourself. So whether you're a person or a company, you're holding yourself at a certain standard and you're maintaining your integrity. That should never shift.
Absolutely. What about actually being good at what you do? So for example, and this is not knocking anyone, but there are persons who want to build brands and they create brands and they think that brands are built overnight. You watch 2 YouTube tutorials and all of a sudden you're an expert. Or you do a couple courses and all of a sudden you're an expert. And I think a lot of the times people don't trust the process, they don't respect the process to actually hone the skills to be good at what you do, because when you are good at what you do, then naturally people remember you in the space because you have mastered your craft.
Right.
What about that?
No, 100%. It's also because I believe in continuous learning, right? The world changes way too quickly for me to not be on top of trends that are happening, because that is what differentiates a marketer from a finance person, right? You're the one in the company that's responsible for strategy, because you're the one that's supposed to be ahead of trends, right? You're supposed to be
possibly predicting
it, being ahead of it, being conscious enough to take the risks. So risk is a huge part of this job, because up until the digital age, we couldn't quantify our work, right?
This is true.
And now I can.
Right? So like, no, I can.
I'm excited
now I can bring the data.
I can bring the data to back it up. But continuous learning, because times change and things move so quickly. So you have to be ahead of the game of your own function. It's just like a doctor. Like, new treatments came out. New ways of doing surgery come out. You're going to stop learning? So being exceptional at what you do, yes, it's critical. But I always tell people, I will hire somebody with a right attitude, whether or not they have marketing experience. Because marketing is something that you literally learn while you're on the job.
Right.
You know, and I thank God every single day for Digicel giving me that opportunity years ago when I worked there in 2006, because I would have studied it, because I got my first degree in marketing. And I got my second degree in political management. Yeah, I know.
Political management?
Yeah, but I focused on corporate affairs and leadership development.
Okay.
And when I came back to Jamaica and I got the opportunity to work at Digicel, I'm like, I don't think I learned any of this in school. I didn't learn any of this stuff in school.
It's very different.
Absolutely. And I went to a super practical school too, but I learned none of that in school. I learned most of it on the job. And so the right attitude is probably like the third thing I would say. Yeah? Being open to learning, being open to taking feedback, being open to the abuse, being open to the success, managing your ego.
Not taking things personally.
Not taking things personally, but like also being in the field. It is so important as a marketer for you to know what is happening in the market that you're launching a product in, or that you're managing a product in.
And what about people who want to build brands that they think they can create for everyone without having that data? You spoke about data, and it's something that we speak about in the region. The fact that as West Indians, we're still very heavy on, it's just my gut.
Yes.
It's just a feeling. I just have a feeling that it's going to do well.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this person will buy the product without actually doing your survey, doing your market research, going into the field and getting the data and using the data in a very smart way to drive the brand. Speak a little bit about that.
Okay, so I was that person once. My gut just tell me says the right thing to do. And by the way, my gut is spot on. And I still have it, and we call it the marketing judgment.
Yes.
Yeah, because you say, okay, that's gonna work. But what gives me the edge in that arena is because I have the insights. I have the data, I have the qualitative research. Out of just finished stalking you in a supermarket, or watching you at a bar, or seeing you frustrated in a line at the store, I pay attention, and I tell people all the time, I'm a good marketer is a person that listens and pays very keen attention, because it's the attention to detail that differentiates you from everybody else.
Absolutely, and it's just funny because Richard Pandui said the same thing that you just said, you know, in very different ways. You said stalking, and Richard Pandui said sometimes he passed persons in the market, you know, in the supermarket aisle, and he would look into their trolley to have an idea of what it is people were buying. So again, you have to understand who your audience is before you can even build or begin to build your brand.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go further into personal branding. What impact does a positive personal/professional brand image have on taking an individual to the next level of his or her career?
But then, remember saying, your work is one piece of it, you know, and your work can be amazing. But if you don't have any presence, then what's the point? You won't evolve and you won't grow. I mean, I've been in corporate long enough to know that it's the people that can articulate themselves and the people that show passion for what they do. And I remember when I was leaving Red Stripe, my former CEO was giving a speech at my send-off, and he said, the first thing he remembered when he met me is I stood up in a meeting and said how this brand that is in double-digit decline, by the end of the financial year, I'm going to bring it back. It's going to be in 10% growth. And he looked at the numbers, and he looked at me, and he said, I believed there for a second. It was not possible. It was not humanly possible, but you have to genuinely believe what you're putting forward as your structure, your strategy, whatever it is that you're deploying for a brand.
Right.
You have to genuinely want it, and you have to be passionate about it. And I believe that my passion is infectious. So when I tell you,
you get the buy-in.
I'm like, no, it's gonna happen. We're gonna sell 3 million phones this year. I'm telling you, in a split of a second. And this is why. You have to have presence, because how else are you gonna sell it to the rest of us that need to be convinced that you need X amount of millions to drive this thing forward?
And then, Nasha, how do you speak now to the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs, the mompreneurs, all of these different entrepreneurs who are afraid? They are afraid of this thing called social media. They're afraid of putting themselves out there. They're afraid of people seeing them.
Yeah.
You know, what is your advice for those persons who are suffering from imposter syndrome and have all of the great things?
I'm also suffering, though, and I would be a hypocrite if I was to look
suffering in what?
Imposter syndrome. And I learned that term the other day, and I was like, oh my God, that's me. Listen, I would be a hypocrite if I tell you I don't have those fears, and there's a reason why I like the comfort of my background and directing what I need to, right? But you can't take that, you can't have a successful brand or a company and you don't take the leap. The whole point of you being an entrepreneur is because you're a risk taker. And if I had your risk-taking skills, I would have done it too.
Yeah.
And maybe I will at some point, but it requires you to take that leap. And by the way, failure is okay. Like, who told us that failure was bad?
And that we're just perfect.
And that everything is supposed to be perfect and that you're supposed to win all the time. That's what used to make me have nervous breakdowns when I used to not win by my standards, right?
Correct.
Because my standards are crazy and everybody else would be like,
this yourself to this very high standard.
I hold myself to a particular standard. So when something doesn't go right, I would have like a moment like, this is crazy. This is not, guys, it's okay to fail. How else do you learn? You generally don't learn from winning. Because at that point, you're celebrating, you're enjoying the moment. The best part about failure is that you go down and you dissect what went wrong.
It's a lesson.
It's a huge lesson, and that the lesson then turns everything around if you apply the learnings the right way, right? So to all the entrepreneurs who especially taking a risk during this time, I have enough ratings and respect for you.
Brave, right?
It's bravery beyond. But then guess what? What do you have to lose? What exactly do you have to lose? And you have to go down to the very minutiae detail of what that thing is that would make you, you know, hold back.
Right.
Take the risk. If you fail, bounce back, learn from it, move on.
And what I will also say, and this is just based on observation as well, the marketplace is noisy. Yeah, social media is noisy. But what we used to complain about before was the fact that people were always complaining about the red tape. It is so hard to get a job. It is so hard to get the interviews. It's hard to get the partnership and the collaboration. And yet still, if you are using your platform strategically and with intention, sometimes you don't even have to go through the red tape because people come
Absolutely.
to you.
And that's how I found some of the things that I love even in my personal life, like products that I've taken a risk on or services. I found it through social media, and whatever you did made me stop, right? And I decided to investigate, and then I'm like, okay, let me see how professional they are.
Right.
Because that's another piece of it, you know. That's another piece of it, you know. Professionalism. It's not easy to come by, right? Especially in our noisy market space. But it's so critical because I can tell you that when I have the best experience with a brand,
you stick to the brand.
I am your customer for life.
And you also become a brand advocate, which I think people have to know about brand building. When you create that great experience that you spoke about earlier, your very customer becomes
it's better than any advertising that you could ever do. Because now you have real people talking about how amazing you are.
In an authentic manner.
In an authentic manner.
Now listen, we just want to remind all of you who are watching that you can send in your questions, any questions that you have for Nasha in regards to brand building. Make sure you can go to the Digicel's Instagram page. Just make sure that you're using the hashtag Digicel Masterclass and hashtag Digicel Business. Absolutely, absolutely fascinating. Now, as a marketer at the top of your game, actually at the top of the game, how do you manage to stay there? You just spoke about imposter syndrome that sometimes creeps in, but then how do you manage to take a brand from this level to the next, and then you either stay there, or even able to go even further? How do you pull it off?
Because, you know, every time we do something, I ask the team, are we gonna be first to market, first to region, first to world?
That's a big,
whatever idea that you're coming to me with, is it going to hit one of those three? Because I want to do different things. And I'm willing to take the risk, and I hope my boss is closing her ears, lose a little money, just to take the risk, because I want to excite you. And I want to continue this relationship, whether I'm building it from scratch, or I'm still, you know, or we're in the honeymoon phases, because Digicel is 19 years now, right?
Yes.
So, I have to make sure that I'm keeping it fresh, because, as we said, social media is so...
It changes.
And the world
you're relevant now, and in 2 seconds, you're
you
no
could be
longer
gone.
relevant.
So how do I excite you? You know, that's why we talked about One Love earlier, so big up to the team that did that. Carla was one.
Fantastic.
It was one. It went off seamlessly, and it was, you know, it came out of an idea, like, how can we can't do our in-person concerts anymore.
Beautifully done.
How can we do something that just really ties everything, all of what we're trying to do as being a digital operator together? And it was to do a concert that happened in 30 countries. Yeah, you saw artists all over the world, and it was about us just really giving that back. So it came from a good place.
Right, and it was also a brand experience at the end of the...
Absolutely.
How important is money when building your brand? You have persons saying, well, you know, I don't want to spend all of this money because I don't want to lose the money. But then you've seen where taking the risk and spending the money can help to really push a brand. How do our entrepreneurs balance between...
No, well, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? So, and the scenarios are different. I have done amazing things sometimes without money, but just having really amazing relationships, and I'm a big believer in collaboration, right? So you may have something to offer to this situation, I have something to offer, we have different things to offer. We came together and we did this together. So partnerships is critical, right?
Building relationships.
Building relationships is critical, because as I said, whilst money, you can't, in my opinion, you know, make money without spending a little, you know, and me and my finance, my CFO, we go at it a lot. But I'm also quite responsible. I don't make decisions that I don't think is the right thing for the brand.
Correct.
I do enough research and work to manage, okay, is this what we're trying to achieve? Well, I need to get this, and to justify it. I mean, there are things that subvert us. You guys wouldn't believe, very little money and effort spent on doing that.
But look at the impact.
But look at the impact. right? My exact words were, please do not big us up until the end. Because I didn't tell a lot of people in the company that we were doing it. It was the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, and I's little secret, because I said, if this service goes down, you know,
The brand.
we are
You
going
have to
be
always think about the brand.
I have to think about the brand's reputation, because now this is global. This is Beanie Man and Bounty Killer on an international stage. I was like, the world is looking.
It was perfect.
And I can tell you, up until the last moment.
And you got the perfect shout out.
And by the way, unprompted, because that was not, the arrangement was, we're going to have they do a little post show after Versus, right? So they were going to just say, big up Digicel. And I was like, oh, no problem. I mean, because remember, it never cost me anything.
Right.
And the hope is that I just wanted to make sure that Nasha-Monique Douglas, when watching
You delivered. And you
not
delivered.
even delivering it, you know. I did it because I wanted that experience for myself. It needed to be seamless. And I've been a Versus fan, and they all were messy and choppy.
Right.
And the internet situations, so all of them leading up was kind of painful for me as a consumer, right?
Right.
So I said, okay, guys, this is Beanie and Bounty. We need to get it together. And
It was a brand moment. It was a brand moment.
And when that last minute happened with Bounty, if you heard me in my house tonight.
It was a brand moment, and I'll tell, and it echoed not just in Jamaica, but it echoed around the region, and then it just kind of sprinkled into the world. And I think that's what we need our entrepreneurs to understand, that they shouldn't think of their brand as a liquor brand.
No.
Your brand is not a liquor brand. All brands started off at some place.
Yeah.
But I think it is the fact that you have the ability, especially leveraging social media, if you deliver well, and if you deliver on your word.
It's important to put the work into the product. Mm-hmm. Whatever you're doing, the product and the service has to be pristine. It cannot be half-assed, yeah? It can't be done mediocre. Because people remember that. Richard said something last week about about our export business. I think he asked him a question about and I was on the JEA board at one point, just about, the opportunities for us, for all these smaller businesses that want to manufacture and export their product.
Export.
You know what frustrates me as a consumer? Not being able to get your product the second time. Fell in love with it the first time, and then you can't deliver it for me the second time.
He said execution.
And when he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. And that is why I said, put all your energy, don't worry about marketing for a while. Mm-hmm. Put all your energy in developing a product that is, first of all, it's going to deliver on revenue, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to create something that is so out of reach for any of us, yeah? So you've developed a product that is very well done, that is priced at the right price for the consumer that you're targeting. Which is the most important piece. You cannot sell to all of us. You want to sell to all of us. But when you're designing a service or a product, you have to have a particular target audience in mind, because that's what helps you fine-tune the journey. Right? Because every single thing in your execution has to hit that consumer's journey.
And has to be a part of that value chain.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And it's branding 101. You can't be everyone. You can't be everything to everyone.
No.
Neither should
you
you try.
In your personal life.
Should you try to do that?
You can't. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you try to please everybody?
You can't. Okay. I don't even try to.
Exactly.
So now let's move into a space that a lot of persons are experiencing, which is what we're living in, a pandemic, COVID-19. How has it changed business branding, or has it even changed business branding?
Well, it depends on the brand. There's some that excited me this year. So let me preface by saying that despite the tragedies that would have arisen out of COVID, it was a good time for me, right? I'm a very inflexible person. And COVID taught me one thing, adaptability, right? So after that, maybe that first week of like, oh, hold on, I can't do my all-island unplugged shows for
in
how
the
long?
field,
where
meeting
I
people
can
face to face,
and get those insights from them. I can't do that. After having that moment of
and processing, and trying to process it.
I'm like, okay, well, y'all are bored at home, so let's put this live, which is how the Digicel Unplugged series started.
Saw that too.
Because I want to find ways to entertain you and be top of mind for you during this time. I want to be the thing that distracts you from this period. Right? But in terms of, that is what taught me, adaptability. It forced me to not take life so seriously and to not be so regimented in the way that I think, and to say, Nasha, maybe you can try it this way though. And so if I would give anybody that advice, take the opportunity to fail now.
Yeah. Do you think that the pandemic and COVID-19 has forced, even the seasoned professionals to make a bigger impression virtually? We've always been speaking about online. We've always been speaking about the power of online and that is where the world was going. Yeah. Do you think it has now forced companies and persons to put systems in place, automated systems, to help drive businesses virtually?
Well, you don't have a choice. And that is the beauty of this time, It forced us all to do what we should have been doing 10 years ago, right? It forced us to get very digitally savvy. My mom, who is so anti-anything digital now, has gotten herself a nice fancy Samsung. So she can now go and play around and do all the things. Like I'm pretty sure she's watching it on her device.
Right.
But at the same time, I think we've all taken advantage of this time as well. So now I have 5 times more meetings than I had before. And we also have to remember there's balance that's needed too, yeah? Because now you're homeschooling kids. Now you're working from home. Like how people haven't gone mad yet, I'm not sure.
Right.
So you have to insist on putting balance. So while technology is great, I know we have to be living a particular way. We have to remember that there's a whole experience behind the screen that we have to enjoy as well.
Absolutely.
So life for me has now become even more exciting.
Very nice. And do you think that is how businesses should be looking at it? Even though we've seen where some have been affected and we're not going to downplay it, that we should be looking for the opportunities, especially where your particular brand is concerned and how it can still play in the spaces.
No, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. It's adaptability, right? You have to be looking for opportunities now. What you're going to do, stay in the doldrums of the situation?
And hope that it will
go away? And hope it's going to go away? No, and I would have hoped that 2 years ago, your IT person told you, listen, we have to kit out this, and now we have to change our handheld devices for all our delivery persons. And those things should have been happening years ago. If you're not there, you have 3 months to catch up.
Right, absolutely.
Because it's going nowhere, right?
No, we were speaking about professional, personal brands, fine, but we understand that we have individuals versus companies and actual organizations. For persons who might be watching who are personal brands, there are individuals, maybe they're doing very well, and now they're trying to figure out how to use this personal brand that they have built, whether intentionally or by mistake. How can they transition now into making this personal brand business?
And once again, it depends on the thing you're offering. The best thing I could have ever done, and this is from a career brand manager, was to get my own.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a consultant. Because, yes, I can tell all the companies I ever worked for how to do what they're supposed to do. I am the most stubborn person that wasn't figuring. I was in minutia, like trying to figure out, how do I now evolve even how I manage my own social feed? Because I've changed as a person, right? A few years ago, I should say more than that, about 5 to 7 years ago, I looked at life and work differently. My entire world around those 2 areas changed.
Interesting.
And it changed because I hired a consultant, a career coach, because I was in that place where I want to grow, but it's not happening. I want to elevate, but it's not happening. And the first thing she said to me is, why do you do all of this? What's your purpose? And I was like, what do you mean? It's work. And she said, no, we have to be driven by something else. And it's very true. The minute I changed my perspective on my own life and the reason why I do what I do every single day and what I get up in the morning and say to myself before I hit the road is, I'm not doing this for me. Every idea, every execution, every decision is made. It's made with people in mind.
It's to serve.
It's to serve. So whilst people don't think, marketers think are on that level of depth, when I get up in the morning, and whether it is I want to go to work or not, I have to remind myself, 1,426 people rely on me to get a paycheck. That's the employees of the company. I have to remind myself of what my company contributes to this nation. That is a whole nation now, right? Economy that relies on the success of this business. I have to remind myself about the communities that we're in and the people's lives that it touch. And that's how I get out of my bed every morning.
And that's the purpose.
That's my
and
purpose.
That's the passion that fuels you.
That's my purpose. It's about empowering people's lives. It's about making the world a better place. It's about making my Jamaica a better place. Because that's my favorite brand.
Yes.
Yeah? And so I have a purpose. And so no matter what I do in my life, personally or professionally, it's driven by that. So if you notice my executions, whether it is a volume driving sale that I'm doing in a supermarket, there is always an element that gives back.
Yeah.
Because it's important to me that our brand called Digicel or whether it was Red Stripe, whatever it is, that we always remember that we are here for a reason.
And we have
to
a
serve the people, and
responsibility
we have
to
a
serve.
responsibility. Yeah.
It's also interesting because you mentioned that you invested in yourself, which I think is something that sounds very, simple, but it's a thing that a lot of us do not do.
No.
From an organizational standpoint as well as an individual standpoint.
And then people like to rely on companies. Like when a company is not developing me, then do it yourself. Do it
Sometimes
yourself.
we have to take the responsibility.
I do courses, whether it's online or before all of this. I will go away and go and see somebody that I want to see speak because I need that boost too. I will make contact with different companies who are doing what I want to do or doing what I do better than I am to get advice, right? Or to reach out to somebody just to get some
And you're
insights.
never too professional or seasoned to be an intern. Like I've always told people, there's always somebody who knows more than you.
I can't tell you how many companies or how many people that I know in CEO positions that I've asked. It's like, I just want to shadow you for a week. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that is how you learn. And so it doesn't even have to be things that you pay for. But if I rate you, I want to learn from you. I want to suck all that knowledge out of your head. And I will say, I will.
And you're not afraid to ask.
I'm not afraid to ask, and I'm not afraid to bring you coffee if I have to. And I'm not afraid to, I don't have a problem with, because it's about learning, right? And I want to get better. So I'm not going to rely on anybody to do that for me. I take them in my own hands. So that's the first thing that I did, was I hired a consultant. Tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so that you can work through whatever, then take you to the next brand.
Absolutely.
That's probably one of my biggest takeaways, especially interning. No matter how big you get, there's always somebody who knows more.
Absolutely.
And if you can go to them and ask them, it usually works out better for you. If you don't take your brand seriously, or if you don't take the elevation of your brand seriously, then no one else.
Right.
No one else
And
will.
who else must invest in you but you?
Absolutely. And I always say that, closed mouths don't get fed.
That's true.
You have to ask. So what do you think are the keys to the success of great brands or great organizations that have give positive experiences? Any particular keys that you think?
So for me, number one is corporate social responsibility. Yeah?
Makes sense.
You can't make money and you're not giving back the love. It is important for you to share. And that is how, and when companies do it great. So one of the best things about me coming back to Digicel, I love the Digicel Foundation. Yes. I used to volunteer years ago. I do volunteer and I'm on the board now because I love the work that they do. Because it's lasting, impactful work. So I'll just give you an example. So we were talking the other day about special needs and it reminded me, had Digicel not started their foundation and their program years ago in this country, we wouldn't be so advanced in that arena now. There's schools across the island.
And just a great sensitization
oh my gosh.
Nationally where special needs communities
it's not
are
at the
concerned.
fore. It's not at the fore. It's taken seriously. There's investment in the community. And I am proud of that work, right? So corporate social responsibility,
Definitely
you have to give back. Definitely have to give back. 2, and my finance people will love me for this one. Your numbers have to make sense, right?
Yes.
So you have to be very clear about what you're trying to achieve, what you're willing to invest, and the numbers have to line up.
Well, you won't have a sustainable brand, neither will you be able to give back if your numbers...
Which is what a lot of people do, especially when they're starting out in a business, right? They throw everything into the glossy stuff, and they forget that if you don't make it back, then what happens?
It's not viable.
It's not viable, right? So your financials, having a very good accountant or somebody with that financial mind is important.
No gut thing.
No gut where your money is
where
concerned. You see where the numbers are concerned, there is no gut.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And then I go back to this around insights. If you do not know your customer, there's no way you're going to be successful selling to them. And so I use the word stalk because I literally stalk you. So when I understand who you are and I understand your journey, I map everything out so I'm easily accessible to you.
That's scary. That's scary good.
It's
That's
good.
scary, but it's
That's
scary
what I
good.
tell you. So I know that, the particular demographic, for example, and I'm like, okay, this is the mom, and she goes and shops on Thursdays. And
Are you talking about?
And then because remember, I would have sat down in the supermarket and watched you and fake shopped myself.
Nasha, let me tell you something. If I walk into any supermarket and I spot you,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that that is what you're doing.
Listen, I can't be out in the space. So anywhere. It could be church. It could be at a party. If anywhere I am people watching. That's all. I just sit down and watch you.
I now know this.
So I understand.
We all now know this about you,
But then
Nasha.
how?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, but then how do you sell a product to somebody
Who you don't
that you
understand.
don't know and you don't understand? What is their motivation?
Very true. We have our first social media question. It comes from Go Daily and it's from Instagram. He asks, how important is personality and managing your ego in building a brand? Very good question.
I don't know. It's a two-parter for me. So it is a very good question. Sometimes in marketing, you need a bit of ego, right? And I'm sure I've had people tell you that I've had. But your ego has to be rooted in something. It has to be rooted in knowledge, insights. You have to understand everything about whatever you're trying to do. Nobody should be able to tell you more about your brand than you.
Especially if this is something that you believe in and this is your pitch.
But sometimes ego gets misrepresented because sometimes it's passion. So like me, I am extremely passionate about, I do not work for a brand I do not believe in or use myself. Because that would make no sense. I would be lying to you.
No, well, and you're
Right?
somebody who speaks about authenticity, so it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
The alignment.
Exactly. So that is important to me, right? That I'm passionate about it. So I'm going to, so, and it can come off as ego because marketers are known for having their, I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Because
right.
it can also be, we may not work in the medical field and there's no trauma, but you can damage a brand if you're not good at what you do.
Right. So it's almost like a balancing act and knowing time and place and knowing how to pull the lever.
Exactly.
So you're saying there's nothing wrong with carrying your whole self into whatever
Absolutely.
it is
But
you're doing,
to.
but you have to make sure that you have your things to back up, that when you stand up with your ego, you're saying, yeah, it might sound away or look away, but look at what I am
going to
bringing.
bring this negative 20% brand back into growth by the end of the fiscal year, and the end of the fiscal year was 2 months.
Right.
There was no way. But I was so passionate about it because I really wanted to deliver it.
Right, but never let it be toxic. Never let, I think that's what it is. Never let your ego or even blind passion, because sometimes you can have blind passion.
And then you don't actually, not listening to anybody, right? So
Correct.
that's why I tell you, listening, paying attention, your 2 most important skills as a marketer.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have another question from Empress. Thank you so very much. She comes via Instagram. She says, what elements should we consider when putting together a strategic brand plan? So we have a brand, we're trying to put it together, the strategy. Like, what are some of the key
Your
things?
5 whys. Why are you doing it? Who are you talking to? Or who do you want to sell, right? What are you trying to achieve? What's the goal? That's probably number 1, right? Because you can always, let me give you an example. Let's use beer, glass industry.
Yes.
The goal I'm given is you have to double the volume of the brand by the end of the fiscal, and doubling could mean moving it to 250,000 cases to 500,000 cases. That's the
target.
That's the target, and that's what you have been told to do. My strategy tells me exactly how I'm going to do it. That means that you're coming, before you even write the strategy, you'd have done a deep dive on your brand. Some sort of research telling you what is going on, what's the current status in the marketplace. Because when you have that information, then you know what problems you need to tackle.
Where the gaps that you need to fill.
Or where the opportunities that
right.
lie. You have to also know the competitors that are playing in your space, what they're doing. You have to probably know their business better than you know yours. Because no, that's who you're going to take that additional set of volumes from, right? So you need to understand what they're doing. And then if you know who you're targeting, then you target audiences. Then you know exactly the right tactics, campaigns, elements, execution that will put it all together to be able to steal that share to get to the goal.
Right.
But it all boils down to, so I tell people, marketing is not just pretty campaigns. There is an end game, and it's the same as the beginning, right? Because I can't not deliver on driving revenue for this business.
Right. So it can't be just embellished, it can't be fluff, it can't be superficial,
No.
but there has to
It's a
be
very well
an end
thought
game,
out.
there has to be a bottom line, there has to be some journey, some path that you definitely want to get your customer
Right, which is
to
why
take.
the number one thing is, what are you trying to achieve? Everything else falls into line once you know what that is, once that goal is clear and
I think
very
that's
simple.
And I think that's probably what one of the biggest issues are, the fact that when people don't have clarity, they don't have clarity in their brand and what their brand seeks to do, then you're kind of just grabbing. You're
Yeah.
kind of just doing let me try this, let me try that, without actually having the right strategy, because you simply do not know what or have a clarity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then when you have a strategy and a plan, that's when people are going to invest in you, right? So solid financials to back up said plan.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good. That's one of the biggest
Right?
takeaways. I have a question here from Tanya W, and she comes via the webinar jam in the chat. She says, "Who was your career coach / consultant?"
I'm going to have to say that one after Tanya, because I'm going to have to ask her permission. I don't think that she would be. She's not doing
Like mass
right.
okay.
I,
All right.
I'll just have to touch base with her and I'll put it out after.
All right, no
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
no problem with that, because she's probably saying, well, listen, if you're elevating your thing, Tanya's like, hey,
You know what was-
can I get a little bit of elevation on my side?
Because what is great about any great coach is that they put the truth in front of you, right?
Yes.
So they tell you what you don't want to hear.
And sometimes, and it's uncomfortable, but you
very
need
uncomfortable.
it. You need it. You need
But
it.
I learned a long time that I don't mind discomfort if it's gonna get me to where I need to get to. I don't mind hard conversations if it's gonna get to me. People who know me will know that I'm the most straightforward person, so I can take it.
Right.
So that's a big part of it, though. You have to listen.
Absolutely. Raw Born Jamaican, Instagram. How do you differentiate your brand on a small budget, which is a big problem for a lot of small businesses? We're always told, be creative. I hear all marketers have been told. No budget, but be creative,
Not
make
possible.
it happen. Make it happen. He's saying, how do you differentiate? How do you stand out when you really don't have a small budget?
First of all,
And does one have to do with the other?
as I said, it always go back to what is that product that you're trying to, because if it's a saturated market and it's a soda that you're bringing in, you kind of going to need a little bit of money to kind of differentiate yourself. But in terms of a small budget, my biggest suggestion would be to leverage channels that are free with amazing content. Content is king, right? You've been hearing that for years. You can only stand out. I'm telling you, I'm scrolling on Instagram one day, and I ended up seeing 5 sponsored posts come at me. And I went and I called and I've tried each of those products. Why? Because the content was,
Right.
it stopped me.
Right.
The advertising was, and it could be a simple piece of creative. I'm a price conscious person. It's showing me a new service and it's adding convenience, price, and it stood out.
Right.
I'm going to explore. Then you're going to have to get me with your customer service. And then you're going to have to deliver excellent customer service when I move through the process with you. And then I will tell the world about you.
Yeah.
So small budget, you can't look at it like that. You have to be oh God, I'm about to say it, very creative. Because you are in a space, you're in a global market space. It's no longer just Jamaica.
Right.
Right? You are now pushing it out to the world. So even a little bit of money to push out the content on social, take advantage of the fact that it's free.
Yeah, and I think he even used the word differentiate. I think a lot of the times everyone tries to sound like everyone else.
Yes.
Everyone tries to use the same formula, the same content, the same approach as your competitor. I think when you're building a brand, it's important to know your competitor.
Yes.
Not to be consumed with your competitor, not to be obsessed to the point where you start to look and sound like them, but to really look and say, yo, what is it that I bring?
Yeah, but it's
that
also,
them don't bring?
You don't do anything without proper competitor intel, right?
True.
So you're a politician, you're thinking you're going to go into a race with somebody and you don't know who the person is.
No, absolutely not.
But that's also what informs your own strategy.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because you don't want to be like them, but you need to know how to be as successful.
Correct.
So what are they doing right?
Mm-hmm. And what are they doing wrong?
And what are they doing
where
wrong?
are the opportunities?
And where are the opportunities?
And what do I bring? What is my brand voice? Even having your own brand voice or your own signature style, as you were rightfully saying, the graphic, the content, how you are messaging to the right type of persons, that becomes a part of how you can differentiate even on a small budget.
And can I tell you, I've been really impressed because I've had to slow down because of everything that has gone on. I live now on social, right? And I've been really impressed at some of those small businesses that are coming out and are really being aggressive about, you know, how they've pivoted. Now everybody offers some sort of sanitization. Everybody doing baked goods.
Hair products, skin cream, yeah.
I love that. But you have to find a way, because this is not like it's just you, yeah? But you have to find a way to develop content that makes it a lasting connection to me in that split second.
Absolutely.
I have to stop. What's going to get me to stop?
Absolutely. I'll also speak to timeliness. I think that a lot of small businesses have managed to come out of the noise with timeliness. And it could be as simple as, going back to what you said, listening. There are persons on social media every single day who are literally asking for certain products and goods. And nothing is nicer than when a small business sees a question and jumps in and says, hey, do you know that we offer this? Yeah. Because now they're taking this opportunity and they're being timely. Not looking at a question 10 years that took place before, but looking at it now and jumping on it.
Do you know many things that we have in development that we just get because of your queries? Whether you are cussing us off, or you're, you know, making, why don't do this? We pull all of that information, and I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to do this, because this
that's a good idea.
It's a good idea, right? So you're absolutely correct, and it's very simple things, and I keep telling people, you don't become successful because you have the most money. You become successful because you listen, you appreciate where people are, you value the people that you're trying to connect with and serve. And then you deliver the experience from them from end to end, right? Nothing was more frustrating for me this year. I've been asking, why does nobody deliver groceries in Jamaica? And it used to drive me crazy because I do not like grocery shopping. Why does nobody deliver groceries in Jamaica?
You who like to stalk people.
Well, that's the purpose, yeah? That's what makes me go out and do it, but I don't enjoy the process.
Right.
And then what happened? Everybody scrambled to deliver groceries to us. You don't have a choice now.
Yeah.
That's where,
and they found the opportunity.
And they found the opportunity.
I could talk to you forever about brand building and strategies and looking at different brands who are serving different people in different spaces. But lastly, in this current climate, which is pretty heavy for most of us, what are some critical business decisions that we need to consider for business continuity and brand continuity, staying relevant, period? Whether you're a big brand, small business, medium-sized business, what are some of the critical business decisions we need to
Number one, you can't take 10 years to decide whether something is working or not anymore. It's just, and I'm not doing 10 million presentations to tell you that this is the direction.
Absolutely.
You have to now make decisions in a split of a second. Once again, taking a risk, yeah? Because it's not like you don't have the information.
Correct.
So being able to change quickly, critical. Being able to decide, you know, well, investing in people. So learning should always continue, no matter if people are in the office or not.
Yes.
Because in order for a company to get better and better, you have to stay ahead of the trends, yeah? You have to stay ahead of what's going on in the marketplace or the world. That's where we're competing now. We're all competing in a world of 200
for the same
plus
audience.
For the same audience. No longer are we just selling a product in Jamaica. So what do you have to do? Pay attention. You have to learn. You have to take all of those insights. You have to communicate with your customers. I know we do a lot of research. We call you guys all the time and ask, how are you feeling about this? Right? We do this all the time, and we have our customer care agents do it. We may have consultants doing it. But getting your feedback on everything is key. I need to know where you are and how you feel, and not just when you're yelling at me on social media, yeah? Because that is actually what defined the work that we came out with 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
It was one, a company must always evolve. So innovation, right? So we had to evolve.
Can't stay on the same
we had to
can't be
evolve.
plateau.
19 years ago, we came into the country and democratized phone mobility. Fantastic. People are past that now. Right?
It's commonplace. Everybody's cool with it.
So exactly, but it was your feedback, your gripes and queries and questions and comments and even compliments that went into developing the work that you're experiencing today. Simplified way of working, simplified plan options, easy accessibility to us or anything came from listening to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it is important that you always keep abreast of what you without stalking them, keep abreast of what your consumers want, because that can change like this. So innovation, number one, because if you don't do that, you're going to die.
Okay.
I have a company for 100 years and have not done anything with the brand.
Right.
To inject some life in it, because remember, your audience changes. They grow up and evolve.
And we've seen how behavior has changed. We've seen how audience behavior has changed. We've seen how generationally people have changed. And so if you are not trying to adjust and adapt and pioneer and innovate in the space to keep relevant, then we will see what happened to the blockbusters, and we saw what happened to all of the other.
I love that example called Blockbuster, because it was one of my favorite places on a Friday night.
Mine too.
Right? And then I'm like, how did you not think of Netflix? How did you not transition to that? Just like that? And that is exactly why innovation is probably, and it's also the thing that most people are afraid to invest in.
To do it.
Because it's not cheap.
Right.
Right? In order to innovate, it takes a...
Right. Well, hold that point. Don't worry, guys. We're going to come right back. Don't go anywhere. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Thank you so very much for staying with us, guys. This is the reason why we call it the Masterclass, because we don't always get the opportunity to get the insights, to hear about the experience, and to get the knowledge from the masters of their class. And so we're here again with Nasha-Monique Douglas, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Digicel, and she was giving us so many nuggets, and we got extra questions. I just want to let you know, the people them say, them have more questions, and you need to answer them.
Okay.
So we have a question here from Instagram, DJ Phoenix 876. Thank you so very much for participating. And he asks, how do you judge when to pull out of a plan, especially if it's not working? So you have your strategy, you know who you're serving, you have your branding, but then now you're doing your thing, you're executing, but you just don't know when to call it quit. Some people say if you hold on a little longer, maybe you get the bus. You quit too early, you got too long.
So strategies, plans, they're flexible, guys. It can evolve, even if you do a 3 or a 5 year. If you see that on the journey, something don't feel right, or the numbers not coming in, the sales not coming in the way it is, and you've now done enough, like a little deep dive just to say, all right, we're doing this right, we're doing this wrong. Oh, that's the problem. And you've tried to fix that problem and it's still not working. I'm a 3-try person. Because I don't give up on
strikes.
things. I don't give up on things or people very quickly, right? I try and I'll try and make a different change, pivot,
Right.
you know, try a different move. And if after 3 tries it's not working, I'm like, all right, guys, a different angle.
Right.
But don't be literal on the 3 tries. Your gut also tells you, because remember, you have now been informed by your consumer research. You're seeing what your profit and loss statement
Getting
looks like.
feedback, hopefully.
You're getting feedback from your customers on your channels, on the phones, whatever. If they tell you that this is not working, sometimes you need to listen and just try a different thing, move on.
Rethink, reimagine.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Repurpose.
It's not repurpose, because sometimes it's not necessarily
it's not the plan sometimes.
The plan.
Sometimes it's how you executing the plan.
Correct.
You know, execution is everybody's downfall, you know. You can have the best, well-written strategy known to man, but if you cannot execute it well, that's it. That execution is the biggest problem.
Right. So DJ Phoenix, we hope that we definitely answered your question. We have another question. Sue Vassell from Instagram. Thank you so very much. How do you maintain motivation to advertise via social media when others copy or try to recreate your work? Talk about the copycats. Sue,
okay.
Very good question.
Hi, Sue. I know Sue. Girl, listen. First of all, it could be the same ingredients, but it will never be my sauce.
Can you just say that again? Can you just say that again?
Same ingredients, but it's never going to be my sauce. Remember, you are an individual that is putting yourself within your business, your product, your personal brand. No matter what. And by the way, this is something that used to infuriate me because I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I will see somebody, and I've seen at least 3 incidents where people have copied down to the T.
Jeez.
But guess what? I've always said to them, don't bother wasting money on a lawyer.
Yeah.
They cannot do what you do. So continue to shine.
Yeah.
It's actually a compliment. You can't hide yourself from the public just because somebody will follow you on TV.
Correct.
Because they'll never be able to give the same customer service that you give.
Correct.
The same value you give to your customers. Because it's about you.
And not only that, you spoke about it earlier. What you do is fueled by your passion and your purpose, and they cannot duplicate it.
And they can't duplicate it.
And I think I've always kind of said when it comes to copycats is that you already know what they're going to do. They can't move until or unless you move. And that is a good position to be in. At the end of the day,
100%.
they can't keep it up. They can't keep it up forever. But you can't disturb your brand.
So, yeah, exactly. So why hide it? Come out louder.
Yeah. Yeah, and it obviously means when people start to copy your brand, it's obvious that you're doing something right.
Absolutely.
People don't copy mediocrity.
Absolutely. But as I said, it used to frustrate me. It actually happened recently to a friend of mine. And I said to her, you know what? Let it go. Because she cannot do you.
Can't.
So.
Can't. Good one, good one. And we have another question from Instagram. How do you make your brand last even when you make changes to your product?
So this is my thing. I hate unnecessary changes, right? So if you're gonna cut costs, if you need to cut costs to make a bigger profit and then you decide to change the formula, that's a no-no in my book, right? No-no in my book. So it depends on the changes. If it's a little artistic change on your bottling and it's gonna add some sort of value, by all means. If it's not going to add value, why do it? Just because you want to do it? But do not change the product to its detriment. Because we've all seen stories like that, because guess what? Consumers never return. There is something, I will not call its name, that I will never consume again because I could taste the difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will never do it. Even if they go back to their original formula, they lost me. Because remember, you only have one time to make it right with the consumer.
And sometimes you want to innovate, but you also do not want to change something that does not need changing. If it is really good the way it is.
Exactly. And sometimes innovation means a line extension. It's different things that complement your product.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't mean, you know what, I've decided that it's no longer going to be red. I'm going to put a black bottle out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But for why? Is it rooted in consumer insights? Then why are we doing it?
Because it's the I, again, which sometimes you have to remove the ego and you have to remove the bias.
Exactly, exactly.
Well said. We have another question. Y'all on fire on social media tonight. Nikki876 Instagram. What's a marketing execution or decision you've made over the years that, you know what, you regret doing?
Girl, we don't have all night. As I tell you, I've learned through failure. So that same brand that I spoke earlier, and I don't even think I should call its name, I couldn't, no matter what I did, I could not sell this product. Could not sell the product.
Was it you or was it the product?
So then, because I mean, I tried everything.
Right, because you said that you're the type of person who changes things.
I threw the kitchen sink at the product to try and sell it, right? And then I did some research, and then I realized that globally, this particular not brand, but category was declining. Nobody could save it.
So you were fighting an uphill battle.
I was fighting the inevitable because remember, consumers change. Remember, every generation has their own thing. People weren't drinking that anymore. So if you're gonna try and keep it alive, okay, what is the ones that are successful at it doing?
Right.
Okay, so we tried mixability. Oh, we tried this. So we tried that.
And it may just not be feasible.
Sometimes it's just not feasible. Sometimes it's just not feasible. Sometimes you do a line extension that will make more sense, right? So you decide, okay, this is not working. What if I try this? And once again, you get your little insights and make sure you're validating the thing properly.
Right.
But yes, that for me was
it. And it also answers what DJ Phoenix asked earlier. You knowing when to pull back. After you've done everything, if it doesn't make any sense, it's no longer feasible.
You know your brand more than you.
Absolutely.
So that's where your gut come in.
Absolutely. Nasha, first of all, let me just say thank you to our participants. You know, you guys have stayed. For those of you who registered via digicelbusiness.com, you participated, you asked your questions. Thank you for taking the time and energy to really invest in your personal and professional brand. Nasha-Monique, listen, thank you so very much for being here. We like seeing you more often. You know, you need to do this more often. But thank you. You represent a master. You really are a master. I've literally seen you go in, look at a brand, turn that brand 360, and it's not done just to say, hey, look at me, but to really add value. And so I just want to thank you for doing what you do, for doing it so well, and for always having people around you as a very strong team to help uplift the brand, but also to grow in their own sense.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, guys. We just want to remind you, this and every Thursday at 6 p.m., we will have the Digicel Masterclass series. And next week, Aileen Corrigan, Chief Digital Officer at Digicel, will be in the hot seat. And of course, you can catch the full episode on IGTV. We will see you next week. This was fun. Thank you. So what you going to do for my brand?
You don't need help?
What are you going to do for my brand?
You don't need help?
No, we need a line extension. We need a line extension.
She's getting there. She's almost as tall as you, by the way.
Thank you.